Let's talk about OBSBOT as an ecosystem for both streaming and recording. Since the addition of the OBSBOT Talent, that 5.5-inch controller, encoder, live stream, record, switcher, all in one device, we really have a developed ecosystem of cameras and devices that allow us quality streaming and recording. Now, it's my opinion that the use for the OBSBOT ecosystem is going to be perfect for a lot of your indoor live streams, your studio, your cooking show, all the things that you could do. It would be a great opportunity. Oh, I just turned tracking on one of the cameras here. It would be a great set of devices for things like band concerts. If you're streaming your kids' stuff and they're involved in all the things, then you know there are times that you have the opportunity to stream band concerts and things that are on a stage. They're good for church worship streaming. All of the indoor events, OBSBOT really kind of shines with because of their ability to track. Indoors, they track incredibly well. On a stage, they track very, very well. And the OBSBOT ecosystem with the OBSBOT Talent is remarkably accommodating to other devices to be brought in. I'll explain what I mean. So let's say, this idea of ecosystem, Apple started it, I guess, or people started calling the Apple world an ecosystem because of iTunes, because of the App Store, because of the devices, all the things that Apple has. And I don't know that it's fair to call any one of these live streaming brands an ecosystem, but as they become more developed, as their software gets better and allows other inputs into it, as they have more devices than just cameras, it does kind of become an ecosystem. And here's the comparison. When it just works, it just works. And so you don't have to do a whole lot of troubleshooting. You just set your devices up, you run them all in together, and you just press go live. And when we get to that point with a company that's producing quality products, then I think it's probably fair to start calling them an ecosystem. Let's say you have an OBSBOT Tail Air or two, but you want to do a 2 or 3 or 4 camera setup, and you're not sure how that's going to run for you. I'll tell you what I've got hooked up here, and you be the judge as to whether this would work for an indoor stream. In a few minutes, by the way, I'm going to make the case that this is also a good, viable ecosystem for a lot of outdoor use as well. We'll get to that in just a little bit. I want to make the case, though, that because of the variety of cameras that are OBSBOT branded, we have a really good starting place. Now, the hub of all of that is going to be the OBSBOT Tail Air. Until they come out with whatever is next for them that is in that same vein of live streaming camera, then the OBSBOT Tail Air is the standard for OBSBOT. And it is a beautiful picture. It is a really well-made, well-supported. The software on it is doing a great job. Now, whether you're running the OBSBOT Start software or the OBSBOT Live software, which is their new multi-camera streaming software, which we'll touch on a little bit, but we're going to actually do a full featured video on that pretty soon, so I won't get too deep into that. But OBSBOT actually made their name in webcams. And so that's another good starting place. Whether you're running the OBSBOT Tiny 2 Lite, the OBSBOT Meet, the OBSBOT Meet 2, or the original OBSBOT Tiny 2, those are some really good cameras. And I'm actually using one of those for this particular recording. And so what I have set up is the OBSBOT Tiny 2, yes, the OBSBOT Tiny 2 running UVC, USB into the OBSBOT Talent. Then I have an OBSBOT, an OBSBOT Tail Air that is running in via, that's going to be running in via HDMI. So it's a micro HDMI out of it, HDMI into the OBSBOT Talent. So that's the camera to my right. And then the camera front and center is going to be another OBSBOT Tail Air that is NDI into the OBSBOT Talent. Now, in addition to those, I also have this overhead shot that will show you some of the other pieces. Here's the Talent itself. You can see the HDMI cable in. You can see the USB cable in that is connected to the Tiny 2 Lite. I have power. I have my microphone coming in here. And then I have the OBSBOT remote that right now I'm actually just using as a switcher to go back and forth between the cameras. so that I have ease of use with the remote here. Instead of connecting it to each of the cameras themselves, since I'm running a webcam in this, I chose to put it in on the Talent, and it works great as a switcher there as well. So setting up our main shot in front of a stage or in front of a platform, maybe even in the center of a gym for a basketball game, these cameras would be great for little dribblers as we get into the wintertime and there's a lot of little dribblers games being played across the United States. It's not going to track your favorite player. It's not going to track the basketball. If the referee is wearing a black and white striped shirt and they're running on the near side of the court, it might track them to follow the course of the game. That's one thing that I've always made a case for. If you can get it to track that referee and he's wearing a unique shirt compared to the rest of them, also he'd be a different size, especially if he's running on the near side of the court, then you might be able to get it to track there. But it's just such a great picture, and to run one there and maybe a pair of them, one on each inline, you would have a really good set of pictures to stream out or to record for whatever grandparents couldn't make it to the little dribblers game. It would be a great setup. And whether you're going to run that back into an iPad or a tablet or a smartphone and run the OBSBOT Live software, or you're going to run the OBSBOT Talent all the way around, you're going to have the opportunity to run a really good stream. And so those indoor venues, the indoor events that are happening are going to be a great use for the OBSBOT ecosystem. Now, we said it was accommodating, and so before I get into my case about why I think it's also going to be a good ecosystem for a few outdoor events as well, let me talk about the accommodating part. Now, it's just the other side of that camera. You have the UVC to HDMI adapter that OBSBOT has produced. And so that's going to bring an HDMI into here if you're out of UVC inputs. It's just a converter, and that's one of the things that helps bring another kind of camera, not one of their own branded cameras, into your live stream or recording. They also have this UVC to NDI, is power over Ethernet as well. This converter that brings another camera, if it has webcam out, there are some other brands that you could plug in here. You could run it back out here and plug that into your travel router, and all of a sudden you've got another camera, maybe with an optical zoom on it, to bring into your live stream and run it into your OBSBOT Talent. And so, yes, then it's because of the accommodating nature of some of the devices that they have come up with, that they have whether that's contracted or whether they've made it in-house, I have no idea, but it's a really nice device here that gives you a lot of flexibility and does in fact make the OBSBOT ecosystem very accommodating to other cameras coming into what they do. And then finally, the consideration of taking these cameras and using them outdoors for some of my favorite kind of streaming, and that would be baseball and softball. I believe that it would work incredibly well to have, especially on smaller fields, to have 2 or 3 OBSBOT tail airs set up, running into an OBSBOT Talent. I can have a behind the plate that peeks through the chain link fence. Of course, if you've got netting, you've got a whole other set of issues. You have to back off a little bit. But the field of view on these cameras is enough that I'm going to get first to third for the infield. I'm not going to be able to make much use of my pan tilt head on that camera if I'm peeking through a fence. There's just not enough wiggle room to move without getting some obstructed view. But to have that behind the plate shot and then run over to either first base or third base and set up there and run my second camera, whether that's NDI, whether it's through the actual software itself. If you're just going to run those two, that's fine. You can just run it on a tablet or a smartphone. But if I'm running the Talent, then I'm going to run the closest one to me in wired, whether that's NDI or whether that's HDMI or USB. I'm going to run that into the Talent as a wired input. And then I've got a side shot, and with that PTZ and the ability to have PTZ control either through the remote that I can use, or running it through OBSBOT Live where I have presets I have presets in the OBSBOT Live software, so I can quickly change the presets if I'm on that camera and catch things that are happening on any part of the infield from that side view shot. Then, of course, because of the accommodating nature, if I have a travel router set up somewhere else on the field and a different camera to bring in, I can use the UVC to NDI converter and bring in another kind of camera. And so all of a sudden, I have a fully featured, very robust setup that is centered around the OBSBOT ecosystem with the OBSBOT Talent, OBSBOT Tail Air, and then as a bonus, this one last piece of the puzzle, I can run a webcam, just a simple webcam right there where I am. And if I'm doing any kind of commentating over that game, then I've got the perfect camera right here that's just on me. It's a match made in heaven for the live streamer who gets to add commentary over the top of his stream and just needs a simple plug-in powered, because it's drawing power from your device, right? I don't have to add an extra battery to that. Whatever power is powering my talent, I'm going to be able to use it there. What a great little setup that could be. Okay, so one last thing. You may say, Jason, that sounds great, but you're talking about two expensive cameras, another webcam that's not necessarily cheap, depending on which one that I get, and an OBSBOT Talent control device that is also a chunk of change. Okay, I get that. Piece by piece, you build those kind of things up. And if you're starting when your kids are playing, U9 ball, by the time they're in high school, you've got a nice setup that's running. So if you want to just start now, then use the single behind the plate camera like a lot of folks do, and next year add another camera to it. And if you want to add the commentary, when you add that second camera to it, go into the OBSBOT Live software, run your behind the plate, run your side shot from the dugout, and then you can just use the webcam, the built-in camera on your control device, your smartphone or tablet, face it to you, right? Use the front-facing camera and run the same commentary, because in the OBSBOT Live software, you get both audio and video from the built-in cameras. So once again, incredibly accommodating, and that would be a bare bones OBSBOT ecosystem kind of setup where you've got two cameras plus the one that's built into your device, and you're running a 3-camera set with commentary, audio over the top. OBSBOT's doing a great job of positioning themselves that allows for incredible flexibility in live streaming and recording.